I'm Mr. Bathily Samba, CEO and founder of ADS Group. Thank you for having me at the Made in Africa conference. I'm happy to share my experience on the continent. There is no future of Africa without Made in Africa. I mean it because if you take the continent, we have the population now, and especially after the AFCTA, we are now a market of 1.3 billion. So this is a critical mass. So now we can talk about industrialization of the continent, because before we are talking about 10 million people, country of 20 million people. With that, we cannot compete with the rest of the continent. If you take China, China is 1.5 billion. If you check Europe, Europe is 300 million people, or even 500 million people. So now that we have this framework of the CFTA, this is the time more than ever to really start thinking about putting country together, and each country to see what's the competitive advantage of each country, and we'll go to the industry according to the competitive advantage of each country. You see, before, during the Mali Empire time, they were talking about the 12th century, and Africa was trading among ourselves. So from north to south, from east to west, there was trading, and there was no barrier, there was no country, there was no frontier. Africa was great at that time, and that's why you have a king like Mansa Musa, who's still the richest person in the world. Why don't we come back to that? We need to see what each country have as a competitive advantage. Back in the days, was taking gold and salt from the south of Mali, trade with textile from the north. So we could come to the same thing. If you take Africa today, each country has some competitive advantage. So we need to have a platform where government and private sector can come together to say, okay, country A, you will focus on this particular industry because you have a competitive advantage. So we can come to a hub system that I've always been talking about. So let's say we are in Cape Verde today. Cape Verde could be the hub for a tourism industry. Senegal could be another hub for service industry. Ivory Coast could be a hub for chocolate industry, Ivory Coast and Ghana. DRC could be a hub for big agricultural industry, agro-industry. Mali could be the hub, Mali and Burkina could be the hub of cotton industry. So it's a matter of coming together, businesses and government, to have a plan for the next 10 years and focus on that. And also, it's a matter of changing our software, that we need to consume our product. I give you an example. If you take the textile industry, we make a small study. We are today 1.3 billion African. And this 1.3 billion African, if we decide to wear our own clothes, just from Monday to Friday, this is an industry of $128 billion. And it will create 50 million jobs. Take an example of France, where the fashion industry is 150 billion euro. That's 150 billion euro is more than automobile and aviation combined. So if we could just change our attitude, just wearing our local clothes, do you think how many jobs it will create for tailor, for designer, for creative? So it's just a question of changing our software. So we could start with confection, that is not difficult. And then down the line, we'll go up to the mills, cotton mills. So we could start and go phase by phase, because what is cost to do a confection? We're talking about $1 million or $2 million. But people have to wear local clothes. And then we could create that critical mass. And when the critical mass is there, the sector will be bankable. And when it's bankable, financier will come in. So when financier come in, the whole ecosystem can be put in place. So it's a question of attitude, strategy, and patriotism. The biggest challenge of business today in Africa is first borders and the critical mass. Because I give you an example. If you're doing business in a country of 10 million, it's not the same if you're doing a business across the continent. But working across the continent, we should not think that, okay, this is a Malian businessman, this is a Senegalese business, or this is a South African business. We should see Africa as one. The day will come across that challenge, that day we can do good business in Africa and business that will sustain. Because don't forget, we are competing with the rest of the world. So if we are into our teeny country, no matter how big, if you take even Nigeria alone, cannot compete with the rest of the world. If you are producing for the continent, you can compete with a factory in China that will produce for 1.5 billion people. So this is one thing we need to come across. Second, we need collaboration. We Africans, we are not good at collaboration. We will collaborate with the rest of the world, but we will not collaborate with ourselves. This is something that needs to change as soon as possible. Because take our government, most of the time they are not collaborating. They are not mutualizing their efforts, their infrastructure. The same thing should happen on the business community also. We should collaborate. Imagine all the challenge that we have. If we all come together, there is so much opportunity, but we are keep on fighting on small things. Look at only the agriculture challenge. We have to feed 1.3 billion rice importation that Africa is doing. We have 25% of the world arable land, and we can still not feed our people. So this is a challenge. If government and business come together, this is an opportunity for the next 10, 15 years. So we could be self-sufficient and export to the rest of the world. And we are, just the importation in Africa today is too much. You take rice. If I take just a simple example on rice, the transport of a ton of rice is $70 to West Africa. You will pay $20 for port charge. You will pay $100 for the custom. A country like Senegal is importing 600,000 tons of rice with a lot of young people, with land. Mali the same. Mali is importing 300,000 tons of rice. Only the sub-region is importing 5 million tons of rice. Can you imagine this $200+ could go on the pocket of the whole value chain? This is a business right here. But we need collaboration between government, private sector to tackle that challenge. Vietnam and Thailand, they didn't come exporter day one. There was a collaboration between government, farmers, businesses to come to that level. So these are everyday challenges that if we just focus, feeding our people, clothing our people, schooling our people, get healthcare for our people. If was doing tourism, traveling across Africa, those small ideas, bringing people together, will create so much job and wealth that at least we will trade among ourselves 50 to 60%. We'll come to the level of European Union. Without that, there's no development.